And good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on Graps TV and The Sicko Show. I'm your host, the Matty Man. Hope everybody had a great weekend, enjoyed WrestleDream. Ooh, did we have some discourse on WrestleDream last night? Yeah, we did. Um, it's kind of hard to start with the bad faith takes, but you know what? I'm just not going to let that get me down today. This is one of the best pay-per-views this year that I've seen. And I got a little thought on this thing. My son's staying with me for a little while they recover from the floods up in the mountains, and he watched the pay-per-view with me as well. He watched the last pay-per-view with me as well too, and he was really into it, and he was really into this one. But today he looked at me, he said, there was just something a little bit different about this. And I said, yeah, I was. Yeah, I just kind of stopped him. Didn't mean to interrupt him, but I just stopped him right then and there. AEW has officially trolled WWE in a way that they have never been trolled before. And I'm interested to see what WWE does in response to this trolling. You say, what are you talking about, Matthew? What are you talking about? AEW used a WWE formula in the pay-per-view last night, all night long. So when I tuned in this morning to kind of get a feel, because I thought about whether or not I was going to throw a red light in there or something like that. I'm not. I'm totally not going to throw a red light in there today because there's just way too many of them. I couldn't pick one. My favorite one for the evening last night, though, Glenn Gilberti had nothing but bad things to say about a specific match, and I'm going to cover that part of it when we get there, and that's going to be part of my red light for the day. I gotta say, the fake outrage from last night was absolutely hilarious. I loved it. I'm pretty sure most real AEW fans loved it, and we all had a good time at the discourse. And I'm just not going to let it get me down, guys. I'm just not going to let it get me down. I got a little bit of a production tweak today. I'm going to try it out. I want to see what everybody thinks about it. Instead of doing match cards over in the corner and stuff like I did earlier in life, when I was first starting out with these podcasts, trying to figure out my flow, trying to figure out where I was going, trying to figure everything else out, because I didn't have I have no formal training for, I do, but I don't. I worked in radio for like 4 years and enjoyed every minute of it. It just didn't pay the bills. That's all. It just did not pay the bills. And coming out of that, I said, you know what, I'm never going to do that again. And then this showed up, and I'm like, you know what, I can take that skill, put it here, and see what I can come up with. Take the skill, take the knowledge, take the experience, and try to do something with it. And guys, we're sitting on 9 viewers right now. I'm ecstatic. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. I know there's football going on right now. I just did not have a place to slot this particular show, and I want to bring to your attention that we have started and will continue over the next couple of months. We are building an actual channel. And for those of you who want to get your content in there and so on and so forth, I am more than happy to display it, even if it has opposing views from me. Be sure to hit me with a DM or something to that effect on Twitter, or leave a message on YouTube or something. Let me know if you want your content to be on this channel. Graps TV is going to be live on Roku, Amazon, and it's going to be a private label app. We're going to be broadcasting 24/7. We're going to have shows. We're going to have a lot more than just wrestling on there. And there will be minimal advertisement because you know what? I really don't want to front the entire cost of starting my own television station. Okay, guys? I really don't, and I'm not going to. So we're going to have advertisement in there and everything. That is coming over the next few months. I'm working on the paperwork for it right now, getting everything set up. I've got a couple of developers that are going to come in, help me set everything up, and to where all I have to do is show up and talk to you, just like I'm doing right now. And I think that's going to be a really good thing. I think it's a good thing for wrestling. I think we need more than just a YouTube or a Twitter or something to that effect. I think if wrestling's going to move on to the next level, and I'm talking about the next level, I think it has to have a bigger platform. I think it needs something that people can just stumble across. And I will tell you this right now, I got the idea from Mr. Starks when he was discussing in their review about how good the Max deal was. It dawned on me right then and there that there needs to be more than just a Max app, and that if we did this a certain way, in a way and manner that would be more conducive to the wrestling promotions and so on and so forth, that it could be a bigger thing, and maybe we could build a platform that's big enough that beyond each and every single thing that's going on right now, maybe we could build something that could kind of like, I'm trying to think of the word, like a gestation area, a place for people to discover pro wrestling, discover it. So that's what we're going to be doing. It's going to be Graps TV. It's going to be live on Roku. Let's see. Let me remember everything we went over. Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, Samsung TV, and we're going to have an iOS and a Samsung app as well. All of that's coming sometime between now and Christmas, and I want to be letting you know as we do the shows where, when, how, and everything else. There will not be a subscription fee. If there is, it'll be $1. Okay, just so I can keep track of what's going on, and it pays me to do that. It won't be that big a deal. I'm not into charging for that stuff, because if we can do minimal advertisement, minimal budget, so on and so forth, we can afford to keep the show going. That's pretty much how it goes. That's where I'm going with it. We've already got it in development. Everything is happening. It's going to be approximately 2 months. I'm very excited. I'm very excited about a brand new way of bringing you this good information, bringing you more wrestling than you've ever seen in your entire life, period. No discussion. And above and beyond that, bringing out more product, maybe, just maybe, we put to rest all of the discourse that you see all the time about whether AEW tells stories, doesn't tell stories, where these matches coming from, where'd this guy come from, where'd that lady come from. We need to know these things. I'm willing to provide a platform. I need the support. Just watch it. That's all I'm asking. But that notwithstanding, WrestleDream last night was above and beyond, quite frankly, one of my favorite pay-per-views once I processed it. AEW requires, it doesn't ask, it requires you to think. They don't ask you to suspend disbelief. They don't ask you to pretend something didn't happen, like that ref spot. I'll get into that here in a little bit. They don't ask you to pretend things aren't happening. They just ask you to think. And tonight was one of those, or last night was one of those that really, for the first time in probably 20, 25 years easily, with the exception of one event, and that would have been when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, ended the streak, and we were all sitting there going, what next? You know, what next? Not since then, and that's an isolated incident. I'm talking 20 years have I had to think about a match set or an actual card, undercard and everything. The undercard made you think, the mid card made you think, the main event definitely made you think. And quite frankly, overall, before I even get started, the entire production, including most of 0 Hour, absolute mini cheat code, if not full cheat code, all the way across the board. Once again, when Tony Khan puts his booking hat on, see, everybody wants him to be a better booker. They want better product. He turns around and gives you a better product, and they're like, oh, we don't like this product. Well, make up your mind, pick a struggle, go with it, live life, go with God, go with whatever you go with. Just go. Okay? Just go. The discourse is getting stupid. I mean, what are you going to grift on? What's Disco really going to grift on? The deal is done, so we can't grift on whether or not they're going to get a television deal. So we got to nitpick, and I'll get into that a little later on. But overall, cheat code, everything about WrestleDream was, when everybody says the card's going to suck, when everybody says the card's not really there, this could be the weakest pay-per-view ever, JD from New York. That's when AEW turns it up like 9 notches. So let's get into the action. Without any further ado, my red light's going to be somewhere around a specific match, and I'm happy to share that part with you. And I will be paraphrasing it because, for God's sakes, I cannot look at that level of stupidity. And it is stupidity. It's not really stupidity. It's professional grifting, and it's fraud. So when I get to that point, it will be in the Will Ospreay match. It will be in that match. When I get to that point right there, I'm going to discuss the fraud that is everybody else except for one other podcaster that I can think of, and that is The Covalent TV. They are the only podcast, and I'm doing my best to keep up, that brings truth, facts, data, and statistics. And I do my best to keep up with that because I don't want to be like the rest of the other people. I could sit here, in all honesty, and tell you, well, this is where AEW needs to work on their stuff, and this is where AEW got it wrong, and I'd have probably 100 viewers right now. But that's not the truth, guys. It's an opinion. And it's an opinion because the other people pay them for their opinion. They really do. And you say, well, they don't give them money. No, but they give them perks. They give them insiders. That's everything else. Anything where a set of goods or intellectual services is exchanged for a set of goods and intellectual services is payment. But anyway, I'm not going to let that get me down. This pay-per-view was just way too good. We're going to kick off a 0 Hour here, and we're going to start off with Brian Cage and Atlantis Jr. Now, I have to tell you this. Brian Cage has been one of the most underutilized, underappreciated people on the roster for the entire time I've been watching, and from what I understand, before I was even watching. Brian Cage has probably been one of the most underutilized people on the card, anywhere, anytime. Apparently, at one point in time, it was even suggested that maybe Tony had a thing where he just didn't like booking big guys to go over. So, once again, WWE formula. I would say formula. Not format, but a formula that would be very, very close to WWE. These two guys went out and put on a real cheat code. It was an absolute great match. Not going to get too detailed into it because there's just a whole lot more to cover. But Brian Cage, actually, honest to God, deserves his comeuppance at this point. It was a short match, short, sweet, to the point, probably like 8 minutes, I think it was. It wasn't very long. Brian Cage picks up the win, picks up the ROH television title, world television title. And from what I understand, Atlantis is heading back to CMLL for a little while to finish up some contractual obligations. And we may very well see him as a regular in AEW. I would love to see that. Brian Cage got out there and proved that he can move with luchas at his size, at his mass, in his frame. Do you know how hard that is to do for a big guy? For real? I mean, in all seriousness, guys, Brian Cage has outshined, outworked, outproduced, out-hustled everybody that he's wrestled for forever, and it is damn good in time that he got his comeuppance. And that's a fact. That is a fact. I marked out like a 2-year-old, and I said, here it comes. And everybody was going, oh, this was predictable. How? I'm jumping into my first red light right out the gate. How? I looked at 4 reviews. I listened to a couple of reviews because I like listening to them. I mean, I listen to a lot of stuff. That's where I get my ideas on what I'm going to talk about because I don't want to copy anybody else. But all I heard was this was a predictable finish. On what planet? Tony Khan has not booked a big guy to go over a little guy. Now, granted, Atlantis Jr. is not your average little guy, but he's not big. He's not a big guy. He's not a Big Bill. He's not a Brian Cage. He's definitely not Cage Agony or Gates Agony or whatever the hell that thing is. He's not any of that size. And Tony Khan rarely, if ever, books anybody that size to go over somebody that size. So exactly how was this predictable? I thought Brian Cage was showing up the job. So when he actually pulled the win off, there was my first surprise. Tony Khan does not naturally book big guys to go over little guys. Maybe it's because he had that thing that WWE did when Rey Mysterio was beating the Big Show and we were all looking at it like, nah, that's not doable. And Tony Khan books that way. So I don't know exactly what about this match was that predictable. Because for me, it was not. It absolutely, under no shape and form, was anything like that. I am very happy that Brian Cage picked up the win. Like I said, I marked out like a 2-year-old when I realized that he was indeed going over Atlantis. But anyway, Brian Cage picks up the win on that one. And right after that, we had for a 0-hour show, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on this one. I just am because I'm not enamored with either one of them except for their abilities. Harley Cameron and Anna Jay. Harley Cameron has had 14 matches in AEW, in the entirety of AEW, in her entire career. Anna Jay's had a few matches. She went over to Japan, worked the Stardom thing. They are ready. Both of them are ready. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, without any question in my mind, Anna Jay, and Harley Cameron are 2 females that you could definitely build off of and keep building your roster. Now we need to break up a couple of other ones. Bring in a couple of more. Let's start working them like this. This match was not necessarily a cheat code. Both women held their own, over-delivered. Harley Cameron over-delivers on every one of her matches. I can see her moveset growing. I can see her talent blossoming. And she's really starting to get it in the ring. And when somebody gets it, and you see that light switch go off, and you're like, this is it. Last night, Harley Cameron locked the hell in. She wasn't as jokey as she was, none of that stuff. She got in there and put on a balls to the wall match. And I got to tell you, It wasn't a cheat code, but it could be a cheat code a year from now if they ran this back. Give them about another year of being out working with the other female talent, getting all of that together, then bring them back. Not even a year. Let's give them 6 months. And then have them run this match back again. I want to see this match on the big stage. And I want to see some gold involved. 6 months, at most a year. At most a year. I want to see this match come back. They had chemistry. The only thing, and I will agree with other takes on this. Harley, the screaming part, drop it an octave. Just an octave. It was too high pitched, and it sounded a little girlish. So everybody knows that not only do I have regular stuff for it, I have some criticism. Not going to kid about that. Some criticism. I'm going to pause for 1 second here because this appears to be an emergency. I need to handle this. I'll be right back. I promise you. Give me like 2 seconds. And I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. I got to send one thing here real quick. Just give me a second. It was actually something I needed to deal with. So just give me 1 second. Give me 1 second here, guys. All right. That's done. I appreciate it. Thank you for your patience. There was actually an emergency that pops up. That does happen every once in a while. I don't live in a vacuum. Thanks for sticking with me. We got 13 viewers. But getting back to what I was saying, Harley Cameron's ready. Anna Jay is ready. Both of them are ready to work. Both of them are ready to work with gold in mind. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm ready for it all day, every day. And I don't have segments for the other two matches. I'm just going to go over them real quick. I don't have much of anything to say about the next two because they started us off with a couple of good matches. Then we went to the Acclaimed and MXM. I was totally not invested in this match at all. The Acclaimed beat MXM. I thought it was a good placement on the card because I have always said some of these matches need to be on 0 hour or bust because they kill a pay-per-view. This would have been a match that would have killed the pay-per-view for me. Not terribly bad, but it would have definitely damaged my report on it altogether. I'm glad it found its way into the 0 hour match. But the Acclaim beat MXM after a little bit of trickery and main roster sabotage, etc. Trying not to use too many cuss words because we want it to be a nice, clean sermon or stream. And the Outrunners and the Conglomeration won their match too. That was a good spot. for Orange Cassidy, not on the main card. I would have said the same for Jericho, but I'll get to that when we get to the main card because overall it was a phenomenal match. Orange Cassidy belongs here for a little while. If you've got to book him on every single pay-per-view, 0 Hour is a good spot for him. That way he doesn't kill the energy and the aura that goes on during the match. Now, you say, well, what are you talking about? He's got fans. Yeah, he's got fans, but it's just something about him. He is so low energy, and that's his gimmick, that it kills what would have happened afterwards had they have injected him into the main card, because the entirety of the main card was good. Even the bad was good. Even the bad was good. So having Orange Cassidy in 0 Hour, perfect placement. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for listening to everybody else, because I know I'm not that big. But I know everybody else who's been reviewing faithfully and fairly said that, hey, Orange Cassidy would probably work out better in the 0 Hour, and I totally agree with that. Absolutely, 100%. Couldn't question it. My God, it worked. You see what I'm saying? But you had to bring him up to the card opener. I would have liked to have seen this here go, and I agreed. Werner on the Covalent TV last night made some suggestions that were actually something that I was thinking too. If I had to judge 0 Hour, I would have started out with the Acclaim versus MXM Outrunners and Conglomeration match. Then I would have gone with Anna Jay and Harley Cameron, and I would have finished off the send-off to the main show with Brian Cage defeating Atlantis Jr. for the title, because to me, that would have been a hell of a go-home right there. It would have been an absolute hellacious go-home. If you had a title switch right before the pay-per-view, and people would have been sitting there going, oh my God, we got a title switch for free. What's the rest of the card look like? It's just those little tweaks. 0 Hour was perfect for me. Everybody was where they belonged. The only thing I would have done different is match selection, match order. But other than that, great opening show. Got us all ready. I mean, for the most part, I was already a little bit hyped. I was still pretty hyped after Brian Cage won. I was still pretty hyped. I was ready for the main card when it started. And, of course, the main card kicks off with, right out of the gate, Hangman Adam Page and Jay White. Cheat code. Cheat code. Cheat code. All day. Phenomenal match. Just an average day at the office for Jay White. But Hangman Adam Page, a lot of people were a little bit nervous about how this was going to work out for him. More than anything in the world, they were concerned with how it was going to work out, whether Hangman was going to be able to produce. Because now this is one match that I went into suspecting the outcome. And my question always was, how was Hangman Adam Page going to shove aside beating Swerve Strickland at All Out the way he beat him at All Out and somehow focus back around to this match with Jay White? Jay White, I don't even know. I don't have words. Jay White is, you would not have one single problem putting the World Heavyweight title on Jay White. Jay White is the most complete professional wrestler I have seen since Magnum TA. Now, I've been doing this for about 51 years, so when I call out names, if you don't know who they are, look them up. It's worth your time. Jay White, I have not seen a more complete wrestler since Magnum TA. Magnum TA got hurt in a motorcycle accident as he was coming up. He was the U.S. champion in the NWA and set for a title run with Ric Flair. He had a bad motorcycle wreck, kind of crippled him up a little bit, and he was done with the business after that. But Magnum TA was one of the most complete athletes in the world. Ric Flair was looking forward to working with him in Ric Flair's prime. And it took us a good 30 years, 40 years, really. Honestly, if I'm being honest, about 50 years to get another Magnum TA, and that guy's name is Jay White. Jay White is quite possibly one of the best. Thank you, Nick. I got the chats up over there. I can see it. Thank you, Nick. I see you over there, buddy. Thank you. You're not so bad yourself. Seriously. There has not been a more complete wrestler. Now, everybody excels in their own way, and I'm going to get to that part too. Hangman Adam Page has made his heel turn so gradual. Now, so gradual. Now you say, oh, well, he was a heel for this, that, and that. Yes, he was. But he has made his heel turn so gradual that he has perfected the grumpy old man syndrome when he walks out to the ring. He's got that grumpy old man face automatically connect to him. Crowd was hot. Crowd was hot. In-ring psychology. A lost art. The entire in-ring psychology, the working of Hangman Adam Page's knee, because the buckshot lariat. Jay White worked, and not discounting Hangman Adam Page either. Jay White and Hangman Adam Page told a story that only they could tell. Jay White walks in with the formula. If Hangman Adam Page's finishing move is the buckshot lariat, let me take one of his limbs out. Let's see how that works. Psychology, in-ring storytelling. They have heat. They have history. And that heat and history made this match. Not a joke. Not kidding. Right out of the gate, your curtain jerker is an electric. All right, here's how, and of course, Jay White did pick up the win. And I saw that coming. I was prepared for Jay White to win the match. I saw it coming a mile away. Even when they booked it, I'm like, this is Jay White's coming out match. This is where they put him on track for the World Heavyweight Championship. And that's exactly what happened. These two gentlemen came out there and brought a match. Hangman Adam Page continues to deliver. And here's the kicker. He got it. He's getting it. Like I said with Harley Cameron and Anna Jay, when I saw the light come on in Harley Cameron's eyes, I saw the same light come on with Hangman Adam Page. He was getting it. Swerve already gets it. Jay White already gets it. Jon Moxley gets it. Hangman Adam Page got it last night. It clicked. When he felt that reaction, when he felt that fan interaction, and Jay White just working 150, man has no wasted motion. He doesn't give a damn about a hard cam or any camera. He gets out there, does his thing, doesn't care. The cameraman couldn't keep up with him. And Adam Page, a light bulb went off in his head. He got it. I can't wait to see the next feud that Hangman Adam Page works in. If he works another match with Jay White, I'm there for that too. I'll pay money for that match. I certainly will. Jay White made the connection for Hangman Adam Page. The crowd was hyped. Everybody was going nuts. Oh my God, I was going nuts. I'm like, this is the first match of the night. That's not fanboying either, by the way, guys. I don't fanboy over anything. I appreciate the content for what it is. But seeing Hangman Adam Page get it, see him working that match, see him working, what is this, like his third different style in 3 pay-per-views? He's getting it. I can't wait to see his next match. Jay White picks up the win. White sold the fallaway slam perfectly, and his counter to the buckshot lariat was brilliantly simple. Just don't make it possible. And then when he tries to pull it off, he just flowed that thing right into his finish. Game over. Game, set, and match. Beautiful, beautiful match. If wrestling were like this all the time, I'd have very little to complain about. I'd have very little to critique. I would just be like, okay, y'all know this was a cheat code. Let's go into the match for a few minutes. Let's explain why I thought it was a cheat code and blah, 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 and just keep on getting it. It would be easy. I would not have to stop and handle all these bad faith takes on matches that are just simply brilliant. If all of wrestling were like this, because once again, like I said, they used the WWE formula. That's what I had to explain to my son earlier. They used a formula that was different than what he was used to seeing. And he's like, don't get me wrong, I like the matches, but something just felt off. It just wasn't as good for me as the last pay-per-view. We watched All Out together. And yeah, we did. And we all freaked out. We both freaked out where we were supposed to. That was an AEW presentation. This right here was a little bit of a hybrid mix between AEW move and WWE formula. Great troll, by the way, Tony. Can't get that one. Just can't say that enough. Great troll. Tony trolled the hell out of WWE, whether you like it or not. He did it, and he did it well. I mean, he absolutely trolled the ever-living shit out of WWE all night long and did it with a smile. Seriously, it was great. It was beautiful. Hangman Adam Page, I cannot wait to see your next match. And Jay White, I'm like, shut up and take my money. Seriously, I am like, shut up and take my money. Not to be outdone. Mariah May and Willow Nightingale. Multiple cheat code moves, the entire match, complete cheat code. I was believing the entire time that Willow Nightingale had the goods to pull this thing off. I believed it when she walked in the ring. In fact, if you watch the prediction show, this was one of the matches I was kind of happy to see because I thought we had a shot at doing something a little bit different in the wrestling business. I don't think Tony felt the same way, and as a result, even though Mariah May won this match, Willow's cartwheel looked like it was $1,000,000. It is easy to forget how much bigger Willow is size-wise than a lot of the other women in the promotion because, once again, just like Brian Cage in a lucha match, Willow exceeds your expectations on every single aspect of her career. Now, the one thing that I will say about this match is Tony had the crowd believing she was going over. Because I believe this match was actually, Tony booked it start to finish, lengthwise, whole 9 yards, had Tony Khan's fingerprints all over it. And he had that crowd eating out of the palm of his hand. Willow, damn it, you are one of the best working women I have ever seen in my entire life. Period. There is none that compares to you. If I had to put a face on it, if I had to think back in the history books, who could I find that was even reasonably comparable to you would have been Wendy Richter. Wendy Richter was a hard-ass worker in a business that did not appreciate women at all. She went out there, did her damn thing, and made it look credible. in a time, in a business that cared nothing about women. Women were nothing more than ornamental, like Christmas tree ornaments on every damn show. And if you saw them, it was usually in a bra and panties, nightgown, negligee, lingerie, something, anything but looking like a professional wrestler. Wendy Richter went in there and broke the damn mold. And it's been since then that we are blessed with Willow Nightingale. Now, do not get it, don't get it twisted. Toni Storm, Mariah May, Jamie Hayter, this division is legitimately stacked and packed. Mariah, you play a role that is just so complicated to hold all of it together and to get out there and do your thing. Willow has already proved with CMLL that she can carry a world title. So you put those two together and you have magic. And that is exactly what happened. Cheat code, cheat code, cheat code. Probably one of the women just keep topping themselves. When you say, like, that's the best women's match I've ever seen, along comes a pair of them and says, hold my beer and watch this shit. It just never, ever gets stale. That Tony Khan is where you're going to build your fans. Because you're not going to get a lot of these beta males that watch WWE. And that's right, I said beta males. You guys haven't had an original thought since you popped out of your mama, and I mean that. You're not going to get the beta males. But if you keep empowering women and somebody catches a look at this stuff where they can see you taking the division seriously, you don't need to worry about beta males. You're going to have more women watching your product than they would have ever thought watching WWE, because the young mother of two brings, let's just say she's black, brings her daughter to an AEW event. Seeing this, that young lady believes she can make it. The core of marketing is to connect with your people. And I think this match right here should have been front and center. It should be, we should run this one back. Everything that Mariah May did was absolutely perfect. Everything that Willow Nightingale did was not only perfect, she was punching so far above what you perceive her ability to be just by looking at her. It was outstandingly crazy. Cheat code, cheat code, cheat code. Mariah May does pick up the win. The only thing that would have made this match better is if Tony Khan had pulled the trigger. I said in my preview show, if he pulled the trigger on Willow Nightingale, kept the title on Mercedes Moné, and pulled the trigger a little bit later in this pay-per-view, that would have been a cannonball shot over WWE's wall. I stand by that. I mean it. I would have liked to have seen Willow Nightingale go over. She did not, but she proved she belongs. The crowd was insanely hot for her. I mean, insanely hot. They loved her walking in. They loved her walking out. Tony, you can build something out of that. I promise you, you have got the material. All you've got to do is bet on your damn self. And I know that sounds kind of crazy coming out of this. Spending 5 years finally getting your television deal, but all this stuff's been safe. All of it. I have family that are in broadcasting. Trust me, you are running safe. If you start pulling the trigger on some of these matches the way we did at the end, if you had the same confidence with this match right here, this would have been headlines tomorrow. And that's not an insult, that's not a complaint, that's just an actual fact of life. If you had pulled the trigger on this match right here and put the title on Willow Nightingale, this one right here, if you'd have put the title on Willow Nightingale, I'm here to tell you right now, that would have been front page news. Above and beyond, Bryan Danielson was front page news this morning on the news, as far as the wrestling news goes. And rightfully so. This would have superseded that. I promise you, somebody would have taken a look at this and it would have gone viral. And I also promise you, you will create new fans if you do it this way. What you're doing with the women's division right now will create you a fan base that WWE cannot touch. And they spend the money. That's all there is to it. That's the end of that one. But yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have seen Willow Nightingale go over. She didn't. Mariah May did. Cheat code of a match. Hell of a match. And the next one. And the hits just keep on coming. This entire card was a cheat code. The main event, the main card was an entire cheat code from the undercard to the mid card to the top of the card. It was absolutely just one banger after another, one phenomenal match after another. Jack Perry and Shibata Bread, I'm sorry, I just can't get that one out of my head. It's a cool nickname too, by the way. They put on a massive cheat code of a match. We did not get the video of Perry's bus arriving like we normally do. Shibata's no selling is always funny. I don't think that was no selling. Explain to me. I'm throwing little tidbits of what would have been a very long red light in the middle of my coverage. Explain to me what no selling is anymore. Because when WWE does it, it's some pride of glory or something like that. But when AEW does it, even when they should do it, it's no selling. His machine gun chops were out of this world. This thing had a whole lot of backflip counters in it. Jack Perry worked his ass off. And the first time in a long time, Shibata worked his ass off too. Everybody tonight was working like the rent was due. Every single person tonight worked like the rent was due. And this one was no exception. Jack Perry continues to impress night in, night out. This is now like the 6th or 7th match style that he's worked in a row. And I'm talking about the stuff that was on Dynamite and Collision, plus the pay-per-views. This is like the 6th or 7th match style he's worked in a row. There has not been anything safe. There has not been anything consistent for him. He is not on the 7th match fighting the same guy for 6 weeks. He has worked 7 consecutive match styles and has managed to shine and look good in all of them. Every single one of them. Jack Perry put on some moves last night I did not even see. I'd never seen before. Very happy. Very cheat code. Cheat code of a match. And him defeating Shibata Bread didn't hurt Shibata. For once, Shibata took an L that didn't hurt him. Jack Perry very much helped. I'm thinking Jack Perry's got one hellacious challenge coming down the pike to him, and I'm going to get into that one here just a little bit later. It's at least a couple of matches down the pike. Jack Perry is going to have to work his ever-loving mind out if what I think is happening is happening. Needed to refuel. Jack Perry is quickly becoming Wrestler of the Year for me. I'm not glazing, I'm not anything. If you have worked and looked this good, 7 different styles in a row, you are the Wrestler of the Year. And that's over everybody else. I know Bryan Danielson will probably catch it because of his retirement and shit. But Jack Perry deserves it. Above and beyond everything. Jack Perry picks up the win over Shibata Bread. A little bit of extracurricular activity that probably could have been elsewhere in another place in another time, but here we are. It didn't matter. I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to escape it and move on to the next banger in a row. Ladies and gentlemen, the only reason this would not have been a main event tonight is because of the actual main event. I told my son this, and I mean it. Let me go over the hot points of it. Don Callis gets involved, so on and so forth. That was also a cheat code afterwards. Ospreay's ring gear is always out of this world. Ricochet's out of nowhere 450, like literally popping into the screen to save a pin. I told my son, I said, you know what's happening right here. As soon as the match got into about, I'd say 7-8 minutes, I said to myself, Tony Khan looked at all 3 of these guys before they went out, and they said, you know what, Takeshita's going over. I want all 3 of you to go out there and draw me money. I don't care how you do it. You go out there, be you, draw me money. Let's just tear the house down. You got carte blanche. And like I said, the only reason on the planet that this is not the main event of any card is because the main event was just that much bigger. And how you get bigger than Ricochet, Will Ospreay, and Takeshita, I don't know. But here's the thing about it. I'm going to get into a couple of these things. Number one, this was not a gymnastics meet. We did not need cards. We did not need perfect 10s, Disco. We needed a book on how wrestling for dummies to follow you. And the other part of this thing, too, is Jimmy Jacobs apparently, according to sources, was the reason Takeshita did not go to the G1 with the TNT title in the first place. You say, oh, and we're in the middle of this red light right now, guys, so just bear with me. You guys say, oh, what difference would that have made? Carrying the AEW TNT title to New Japan Wrestling to show it off for 28 straight days to a fan base who are not necessarily unfamiliar with AEW, but not 100% familiar with AEW, seeing that TNT title for 28 or 24 days, which however many days in a row the G1 is. Right now, my brain's a little bit, we stayed up a little late watching other reviews. If Takeshita had been able to take that title to Japan, it probably would have resulted in clicks for AEW. So, if you're wondering why these bad faith, I once wrestled podcasters don't want you to hear that, is because they're paid shills. No, this is not Tony playing the blame game. This is Tony righting a wrong. And shout out to Will Ospreay and Ricochet for both eating the L on this one. I said in my predictions that Takeshita was going to go over, and this is where Ricochet was just going to have to eat that L. There's a few other things that happened as a result of Jimmy Jacobs being gone, and I think that we can actually see that. Chris Jericho had to wrestle like his rent was due. We'll get to that one here in just a few minutes. The amount of actual action in this show, in this particular match, was so mind blowing, so deafening, and so numbing. This is everything we thought we were going to get when Ricochet left WWE. Ricochet, you are a god among men. Will Ospreay, you are a god among men. Konosuke Takeshita, I try not to say the first name because I almost always blow the last name bad, pause. And you are a god among men. Tony Khan put his 3 best, and I mean best. Just because they're not at the top of the card yet does not mean that they are not some of his best athletes. This was a clinic because once they grabbed you, they never let go. They had me. I watched my son sit there and watch that just like somebody would watch, just wanting to see what's going to happen next. Shout out to 18 people. Thank you guys for showing up. But this match right here was beyond a cheat code. This was God mode. This is that God mode shit that I hear WWE fans jerking off about every time Roman Reigns gets on a camera. This was that. This is what you wish that was. This was God mode. In a video game. This is beyond a cheat code. This was just straight up God mode. Start to finish, bell to bell, everything made sense. Everything had a purpose. Even Takeshita chilling out on the table, or was it Ricochet? No, it was Takeshita. Chilling out there on the table for a few minutes. So that Will Ospreay and Ricochet could do their thing. Everything, placement, spot. They didn't care about a hard count. They went balls to the wall, bell to bell. Hell of a match. We are not worthy. Seriously. Takeshita picked up the win as sort of as I figured he would pick up the win. And frankly, the action afterwards with the Kyle Fletcher turn, they got heat on Kyle Fletcher. Everything about this match. Were Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley not the highlight of this card, this match would have been it. This match would have been a go-home match for any card ever. This made the pay-per-view right here. This match. I'm not going to get into all the details of it. Pay the $50, pirate it, do whatever you need to do, catch the YouTube of it, whatever you need to do, watch this match. Because in wrestling school, if you wanted to show a bunch of aspiring up-and-coming wrestlers how this shit is done, show them that match. Show them the Willow match. Show them those 2 matches right there, because we've seen Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley several times. That one was an emotional match, but show them these 2 matches right here. If you show them these 2 matches right here, they'll have all the tools they need to go out and succeed. These 2 matches, the Willow Nightingale, Mariah May match, the Takeshita, Ospreay, Ricochet match. You put those 2 matches in front of your entire class, they will have all the tools they need to go out and succeed. Study those 2 matches right there. That was an absolute clinic, and it doesn't stop there. Hologram Beast Mortos. Hologram is just crazy over at this point. Hologram Beast Mortos. And regardless of what everybody else was saying, and this is some more bad face stuff, I'm mixing my red lights in here everywhere. Because there were just too many of them. When I said at the beginning of this stream there were too many red lights, to just devote a section to them, that I was going to sprinkle them out across the review. Here's another one. The fans were screaming for Beast Mortos. I heard it. Beast Mortos is over, guys. Hologram is over. And I mean, Hologram is over in a way that I have not seen a lucha on American soil be over since literally Eddie Guerrero. Rey Mysterio, to an extent, Rey Mysterio is like the godfather of lucha on American soil. He just is. Hologram is a consigliere. I can tell you that right now. Hologram is the consigliere of lucha wrestling right now. And I'm going to tell you right now, Beast Mortos is an enforcer. If I had to break the hierarchy down for what I feel about lucha wrestling on United States soil right now, that's how I rank it. Rey Mysterio is going to be the godfather. But Hologram's the consigliere, and Beast Mortos is the enforcer. These two guys put on a cheat code of a match. The problem with the fans not being able to get into it as much as you thought they should have been able to get into it is because it followed the Takeshita, Will Ospreay, Ricochet match and all the extracurricular activity that followed. Kyle Fletcher is close to being established. Following that right there was pretty tricky, pretty difficult. But once again, Hologram figured out how to navigate it. AAA, you know what? I'm calling you out on this one, Conan. You dismissed Hologram and his impact. You were wrong. I'm calling you out on that one. Now you follow me, I follow you. We get along really well, but I'm going to say right now, I think you've been hanging out with Disco too much and it's infecting your brain on that one. And I'm saying that all respectfully because I know all of you guys down there are luchas. You got the true lucha. But I think he dropped the ball letting Hologram get out of AAA. I really do. I think he dropped the ball on that one big time. That's a hill I'm willing to die on. Hologram is over like Rover. With the children, everything else, he's doing all the right things. He's getting his stuff together. 2 out of 3 falls. Hologram picks up the first fall. Beast Mortos picks up the second fall. Hologram picks up the third fall. The only reason that the fans couldn't get into this match as much as you would expect them to get into it is because they were exhausted. Dude, every single match, there's not been a cool-off match at all, period. And I thought we were going to get a cool-off with Chris Jericho and Mark Briscoe. That didn't even happen. I'll get to that here in just a few minutes. But this was an absolute cheat code, start to finish. This was a banger, bell to bell. Both of them left it out there in the ring. It was absolute beauty. It was a chef's kiss close to the match before it. It was just to show you anything you can do, we can do better. Now, did they have a couple of botches? Of course they did, but they took a lot of risk. When you take a lot of risk to entertain fans, you are going to botch. I don't care if your name's Hologram. I don't care if your name is Roman Reigns. I don't care what your name is. If you risk a lot in a match, you are going to botch. Now, I didn't even cover the other red light back there in the Anna Jay Harley Cameron match because it ain't worth my time. Harley Cameron picked up probably a little bit of an injury. The look on her eyes when she came up out of that flapjack, I don't know what they call it, but to me it looked like a reverse flapjack. She looked like the lights were on, nobody was home, and I think the referee moved her shoulder to go ahead and close that match. I do believe that. I'm backtracking just a little bit because I left that out in my commentary. As far as that was the only actual blatant botch of the night. Some of them were unintentional botches. But where the referee moved her shoulder, I do believe that he made a judgment call because I made the same judgment call. She hit head first on that mat and came up glazed. I mean, she was dazed, confused, and everything. looked like she might have had a concussion, and we need to go ahead and stop that match. I think they wanted to give him at least 3 to 5 more minutes in the match. But because of that, I believe he had to stop that match, and that was just the natural way to do it. She wasn't in perfect pinning position, so he went ahead and moved her shoulders. Plain simple. It's fine. I'm good with that. Didn't bother me that much. Not like Braun Strowman missing entire bodies running around the ring and then falling down like he knocked their brains out. That's stupid. But I digress. Hologram and Mortos. Also a cheat code of a match. Phenomenal match. Just could not get enough of it. They could fight forever and I'd be fine with it. It turned out to be somewhat brutal. It was not as brutal as it could have been. Shout out to 21 viewers, by the way. Yeah, I got all my bad faith takes written down. So, I mean, one of the bad faith takes here is it looked rehearsed. No, it's not rehearsed. It looks like they know what they're doing and they're calling it in the ring. It didn't look like it was rehearsed. It didn't look like any of that at all. It was a banger of a match. The reason the fans weren't into it is because by this point in time, they're exhausted. And they needed to catch their breath. We had a little break in between Hologram and Mortos to get Darby Allin and Brody King out there. And I think that's when they didn't really catch their breath until halfway through that match. And that was leftover from the Takeshita win. It's unfortunate that the match landed where it landed. But if you want to know why the crowd just wasn't or didn't seem to be into it that much, I was into it a lot, but I was exhausted. I didn't catch steam again until the Brody hit, till the Brody spot. That's when I caught steam. Just to give you an idea, we were exhausted. We were trying to figure out something, at least a minute or two breather, because there weren't any cool off matches tonight. None. And the one I thought was going to be a cool off match wasn't even a cool off match. Hologram and Mortos went above and beyond. They over delivered. And cheat code, cheat code, cheat code, cheat code, cheat code. The theme of the night is not to be outdone. That's the wrong one right there. There it is. Not to be outdone. I got them wrong. My bad, guys. I'm working on it. I got them out of order. Not to be outdone. Brody King, Darby Allin. The hype and the build for this match so far was that they had fought many, many times. The only win that Darby Allin had over Brody King was a gimmick match. In the gimmick match, in the coffin match, all you got to do is get them in the coffin and shut the door and the match is over with. It's not a pin. It's not a submission. So the hype to this match was that Darby Allin had not defeated Brody King by pinfall ever. And that was that. You know, that was that. There's not much more you can say about this. The brutality was off the rails. The spot with Brody King standing on the steps, like literally almost cutting Darby Allin in half. I'm surprised the fans weren't like, "This is murder." You know, they had their chants going. You know, I'm surprised we didn't get a "This is murder" chant. I really am. I'm totally surprised we didn't get a "This is murder" chant. Darby Allin, it was I I don't have words for Darby Allin. I really don't. And I hope he climbs Mount Everest. I hope he survives that climb. He's recommitted to climbing Mount Everest, and I believe some bitch can do it. I have seen him fight now in 4 pay-per-views, multiple free nights, like Grand Slam, things of that nature. I have seen him do that. This is a professional athlete. Bottom line, professional athlete. One of the best to ever do it. I don't have words for it. I wish I had words for it. I don't. I don't. I just don't. I don't. I don't have words for this match. I would love to have words for this match, but yeah, I would love to. I don't. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Cheat code, banger, brutal. The chair shot with Brody was, or not the chair shot, the stair shot, the stair spot. Absolutely one of the best things I've seen in forever. I got to figure out something here, guys. I got a couple of things that are out of order, and it's fine. But here we are back to not to be outdone. That's the theme of this show. Not to be outdone. Private Party and the Young Bucks just, they just went on out there and put on a cheat code match too. I was actually believing during this entire match that Private Party could pull it off. I really was. I had it in my mindset. I believed it. I thought they could do it. And as it turns out, they came up short, but not from a lack of effort. The emotion at the end of this match summed every bit of the entire night up. Young man is sitting there on his knees crying because they didn't pull it off. But the emotion, everything that was in this match, the Young Bucks, it took them about, I'm going to say this right now, it took them about, I would say 8 to 10 minutes to finally turn it on. But when they turned it on, they were like, wow, we're going to look embarrassed if our match was the worst match of the night. Let's go do some crazy shit. And that's exactly what they did for the rest of the night. I do have to say that I guess we need to keep making fun of them for the pearl necklace, because every time you make fun of them for the pearl necklace, they come out with more pearls on. That was just something that stuck in my head tonight. It started off with 1, then 2, then 10. It looked like he had 20 pearl necklaces on. He looked like Mr. T with pearls on. That's all I got to say. He looked just like Mr. T with pearls on. That's the best way you could put it for the night. 3 EVP triggers before a pinfall. No shame in that game. Once again, the black wrestlers looked really good. I didn't skip over the swerve thing. I'm not worthy to cover it. I will say that Swerve Strickland was in the house. His set with MVP and Prince Nana and Shelton Benjamin setting up for that match. I'm hoping it's going to be Dynamite, not a pay-per-view. The Shelton Benjamin Swerve Strickland match, setting all that up. Shout out to Swerve. Shout out for saying the quiet part loud. And if I'm Tony Khan, I ride that. I ride that till the end of the year, and I keep riding it. And I'm going to back off on my prediction show saying when I wanted Shane McMahon to show up. I want Shane McMahon to show up at World's End in Orlando. And I was saying last night, and I'm saying it today, I hope they leak that to the media in spades. I hope everybody gets that story 2 weeks before it happens. When they get ready to debut Shane, I hope they do it at World's End in Florida. WWE snuck around there and set up a show to compete with them on that night, at that time, the whole 9 yards. I hope they say, well, you know what? It's great. I'm glad y'all spent your money. Shane McMahon's going to be live. I hope they do that. But at one point in time, I thought we should have had a Shane McMahon visit, and I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad he stayed. I'm glad it wasn't that way. This still felt like a Shane. This shit still felt like a Shane promotion. This felt like a collab between Tony and Shane The whole card felt like a collab between Tony and Shane. If I had the best way I could possibly describe it, that'd be it. It felt like a collab between Tony and Shane. That notwithstanding, the Bucks pick up the win. It was just absolute match quality out the yin yang. I'm hoping my next tile is correct, but if it's not, then I'm just going to drop it. I know my last one is. I got a little bit confused trying to put the show together. Production is not production is not easy. And it did work. Hot diggity dang. This was the match I thought was going to be the cool-off match. Mercedes Moné has been in this unfortunate position 2 pay-per-views in a row. Actually, 3. She's been in this slot 3 times in a row. And you have to understand, guys, in all sincerity and in all seriousness, at this point in time, the crowd has got to be exhausted. And then Chris Jericho came out there and said, you know what? I've been working like shit all year. Let me put my best foot forward. Mark Briscoe came out there and, oh my God, that was the most serious Mark Briscoe I've seen. 1 second. My voice been on the fritz all weekend. That was the most serious Mark Briscoe that I have ever seen. I'm not going to lie. That dude was serious walking out. Plot twist, Chris Jericho was serious walking out too. And I thought to myself, maybe this isn't going to be the cool-off match that I thought we were going to get. And it sure as hell wasn't. Jericho's suplex, the one call out I will have here, Jericho's suplex looked like it hurt both guys. They both looked hurt. They both look injured coming out of that, and that's going to happen. Reality is, I owe Chris Jericho an apology. Not really, but I'm going to apologize. I did not realize you still had that level of wrestling in you because I hadn't seen it. Now, I'm not expecting Chris Jericho to come out there week in, week out, night in, night out and put that kind of performance on. No, not at his age. No, it ain't going to happen. Especially not with younger talent. Not that Mark Briscoe's that much younger, because he's not. But I'm not expecting that out of him all day, every day. But what we did get out of both of them last night, I'm not going with a full cheat. You know what? I'm going to call it a mini cheat code. I'm not going with a full cheat code because you are not convincing me that Jericho can do this night in and night out. And Jericho, don't go out there and give yourself a heart attack trying to prove it to everybody. Please, for the love of God, don't do you a Ric Flair and go out there and try to prove it to everybody. You don't need to. It's unnecessary. All of that is unfucking necessary. But I don't think we get this match out of Jericho on a regular basis. That's why I'm calling it a mini cheat code. It was definitely not a cool-off match in the tradition of cool-off matches. It was a good match all the way across the board. I honestly legit believed they were going to put the title on Chris a couple of times there. I legit bought into the main roster confusion. I bought into all of that, the whole 9 yards. I bought it hook, line, sinker. Good match, guys. You hooked me. I also know that Tony Khan looked at both of y'all and said, go out there and give me your best performance. Just do the best you can with what you got to work with. Because he had to know at this point, with this match card, he had to know you weren't going to get that much out of the fans. There wasn't that much left to give. It's like they were holding it back for the Moxley-Danielson fight, which I was doing the same thing. I was trying to keep my emotions in check for this match because I knew the match following it was more than likely going to be a banger of a match. It didn't end the way I thought it was going to end, and it took me a minute to process it, but I knew that match was going to be emotional bell to bell. And I predicted the turn that happened. I called it right here on my prediction show. I'm very proud of myself. I'm finally getting it with AEW like I get it with WWE. I can call WWE matches, and I haven't even watched the product at all this week. I can go in there and call matches on a prediction show for that just based on how they look, how they're put together. Because WWE will tell you who's going to win the match before they even fight. And the only way I get surprised is if somebody gets injured and they have to reverse the call. But I was very proud of myself for getting that one correct. Chris Jericho, Mark Briscoe, you guys brought a hell of a match. You belonged in this pay-per-view. Your match belonged in this pay-per-view. It belonged on the main card. Now, I know a lot of other people say otherwise, and I'm fine with that. That's an opinion. We all have them. But this match really and truly belonged on this card. It did not belong in 0 Hour. The emotion that Chris Jericho was able to get out of Mark Briscoe, and I remember saying to the Chris Jericho tweet that he was going to elevate Mark Briscoe. I'm like, how the hell are you going to elevate? He couldn't even elevate himself. He damn sure did. I'll eat that L. He elevated Mark Briscoe to another level. Absolutely, without question, Chris Jericho, much props to you. Mark Briscoe, always props to you. And shout out to Jay in heaven. Because I can tell you right now, I know he was looking down and like, wow. Because you fought with some damn heart, sir. And I always believed if a promotion had given you a second look from back in the Ring of Honor days, you and Jay, I always thought you belonged on the bigger stages. I didn't think you belonged in Ring of Honor. I always thought you were like the top tier tag team for Ring of Honor. You were better than anybody else in Ring of Honor at the time, for the most part. And I know a lot of talent came through Ring of Honor. Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, the whole 9 yards. But you guys as a tag team were the consummate tag team. Then, now, and forever. Ha ha ha, WWE. Anyway. Mini cheat code just simply because I can't give Chris Jericho a full cheat code, and I will never do that as long as I live. It's nothing personal. I just don't think he meets that expectation anymore at his age, at his skill level, at his work rate. I don't think he does. I'm just going to tell you just like it is. But if he keeps putting on matches like this right here, he's definitely going to have something to actually teach the younger wrestlers. Good match, guys. Can't argue. And we are flat ass at the main event now. I never thought I got to say this. I don't know what was going on with Swerve when he dropped the title to Bryan. I don't know if that was an ask. I don't know how that came to be. But I'm happy for Bryan Danielson's career, his in-ring career at least. And I don't know where to start with this match, so I'm kind of organizing it in my head. This was, once again, God mode. This is that God mode style that WWE is trying to convince you that you're getting with Roman Reigns. You actually get it with this match. Same with the triple threat match. Best triple threat match I've ever seen in my entire life. As far as main event card matches go, and I have seen approximately 200 main events, not counting indies and everything else. I've seen roughly 200 main events, give or take. If I were going to script an actual on your shield match, either come home, it's like in the movie 300, she said either come home with your shield or on it, but come home. If I were going to script the perfect wrestling match for that scene, and 300 is a damn good movie to me, I can still watch it. Some of it's a little bit dramatized, and I knew what was going on with it in the beginning. I know what's going on with it right then. If I were going to produce that line from 300, either come home with your shield or on it, if I were going to produce that one sentence, it would be this match. Now, people were talking about the final countdown playing and playing and playing and going on, even through the match. You're damn right. That told me, that was my key right there, and I was trying to keep up a good face. I really was. I was trying to keep up a good face. But the fact that the final countdown played and played and played and played and played, I said to my son, I said, I think I missed my projection on this match. I think Mox has got it. Hey, Hannah, how you doing? I said to myself, I think Mox has got this match. I think he's got it live, and I just couldn't do. I couldn't do anything. I froze for just a minute because I knew the fact that that song was playing all the way through meant Tony was going to get his money's worth. This is the last time we were going to hear it. The omens were there. The predications were there. The predictors were there. I missed it. I did. I went back and looked. I spent this morning looking to see where I missed it because I missed it. This match delivered. And once again, I'm not going to get into the graps of it and everything else. I'm not going to get into the details and the graps of everything because I really think this is a match you should go back and watch too. Start to finish, bell to bell, end to end. Now, were there some spots in this match that I thought were just crazy? Yeah. You can go back and watch them. I'm not going to detail every little spot. I'm getting to the end of the match here. Because your boy actually called the Wheeler Yuta turn, and I didn't even realize I had called it. I said, wait a minute, I called that in the pre-show. A lot of other people were saying that Wheeler Yuta was going to come out and help Bryan Danielson. And I said, nope, I think we get the Wheeler Yuta turn here. And of course, I clipped it, threw it out there. The way this match ended was so poetically beautiful. Even to the point of the ref calling the match and going, even the ref got the memo. And it's hard for me to get through this particular match. I've been a Bryan Danielson fan for years. Not necessarily the politics side of Bryan Danielson, but his in-ring performance is unmatched by anybody else. And I think the only person that's ever going to come close to him is Will Ospreay. Maybe Ricochet. He's got the WWE stench off of him. But if Ricochet puts together a body of work that's pretty close, I think Will Ospreay, Ricochet are going to be close to Bryan Danielson. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I think Swerve's going to pass them all. But it's hard to cover this particular match here because it caught me off guard in ways that I was not quite prepared for. This was the ending of this match, to me, because the way it ended. It's like they started off slow, then they caught a gear. And just as they were switching into third gear, match was over. And I, like probably every damn body else who has a brain cell and was expecting one thing and something else happened, we all went, what the fuck? This is it? They did that at All Out. And it worked. Tony, next pay-per-view, we don't need a finish to the match like that. 2 in a row, perfectly good. Another one, overkill. Shout out to the 26 people that are watching. It took me approximately 2 hours to process the end of this match. I'm not going to lie. It didn't take me that long to process the end of the Undertaker streak. It took me about 30 minutes to say, why Brock Lesnar? Then I got to thinking about, yeah, they're kind of buds. They kind of met. They kind of talked it out. They've kind of had all this stuff going on. We just missed it. Now, even right now, I'm still processing this match. In my mind, as I'm reviewing it in my head, I'm not going to go move for move on this match either, because this is a match you need to watch. Aging veterans, if you would like to know how to touch your audience and get over with your audience, watch this match. I see a lot of veterans out there that are like, I don't understand. I don't feel like I've lost it. And you haven't lost it. You just haven't told it. Even down to Jon Moxley looking Bryan Danielson square in the eye saying, please don't make me do this. I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to do it this way. I don't want to have to be in there like this. Every second of every minute of this match, nothing wasted. No energy wasted. No pops wasted. No moments wasted. No nothing wasted. This was a very efficient use of time. And Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson showed you how to do it. I do believe, and I will stand on this, I believe Moxley going over Danielson was called in the ring. I really believe it, because even at the moment where they played the final countdown into the match, yeah, that was a good tell. It could have been a distraction. I believe the finish of this match was called in the ring. I think Bryan Danielson said to Moxley, I can't go. I can't do another match like this. Let's finish it. I believe that's how it went down. Or he had a hand signal he was given to Tony, one or the other, to say, yep, this is my last match, can't do it. And shout out to you, Brian, for being smart enough to pick your spot. You went out like every wrestler's dream. Shout out to Tony Khan for producing this match in this way. Shout out to Bryan Danielson for all the years of professional wrestling you've given us. Shout out to Jon Moxley for taking that Shawn Michaels treatment and owning it. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Shawn Michaels had to put Ric Flair out. There are just some wrestlers in this business, you don't want to be that guy. And I have always felt like Shawn Michaels was properly equipped to take Ric Flair out. And I believe Jon Moxley was properly and mentally equipped to take Bryan Danielson out. And I also agree with Covalent TV. If Bret Hart were going to hand that name down, Moxley might be the guy to carry it. Now, I don't agree with him on some of the other stuff. I think Moxley should have carried that. I'm not going to kid. Not going to kid. This match was God mode of God mode. Not only did they tell a story, they called a finish in a match. And this is a 4-match story just from recent. Absolute cheat code, God mode, any other accolade you could give this match. And no, I'm not giving it to him because he's retiring. Goldberg can go kick rocks for all I care. Okay? I like him, but I don't like him. And I'm going to be honest with you. I like Bryan Danielson's in-ring work. I don't particularly care for the man. But there's a big but here. He went out on his own terms and his own way. There are no promotions offering this to aging wrestlers. And I say aging because Bryan Danielson is not old. He's younger than I am. Moxley, younger than I am. But shout out to Bryan for knowing when to say when. Shout out to Moxley for filling those Shawn Michaels shoes better than Shawn Michaels filled those Shawn Michaels shoes. Because the I'm sorry, I love you thing, that was cool and all that, and it was a good little sight, but it was unnecessary. It was known. It was understood. And Jon Moxley said the loud part quiet. Phenomenal match, bell to bell. One of those, if you really want to get all the graps to it, you just need to sit down and watch it, pirate it. I don't care how you do it. Just watch the match. Ratings for WrestleDream. I got to still go with a 9.9. I'm not giving it a perfect 10 because there was one issue in there which I'm keeping to myself, because there is no amount of a complaint that I could come up with to overshadow this pay-per-view, nor would I even try. But there's one instance in the back of my mind, which I may tweet about a little bit later, that kept me at a 9.9. This was not a 10 pay-per-view for me. It was a 10 for a lot of other people. There's approximately 5 7-star matches in this thing. The lowest star you should see for any match on this card would be 4.75 on the main card. And I don't know what they do with 0 Hour, but I saw a couple of 5 stars in 0 Hour too. I'm at a 9.9. My moment of the night is where I'm kind of torn. I want it to be the Mariah May Willow Nightingale match. I want it to be the three-way, fatal three-way. I want it to be the finish of the match between Moxley and Danielson. But I can't come to a decision on those three. I may come to a decision sometime this week and I'll post it. After the match, we got the Wheeler Yuta turn. And Wheeler Yuta is now conflicted within himself because he has now turned on his mentor and best friend, sending him out on a stretcher. He did the bag thing, and shout the hell out to Tony Khan for leaning into the criticism and doubling down. I've never seen a promoter double down on criticisms like he received. A lot of times when you get that level of criticism, and that does happen, they tend to make changes. They tend to try to cowtail and everything else. Nope, not Tony Khan. Tony Khan's like, hey, we're going to do this Wheeler Yuta turn. And guess what? Willer Yuta's going to suffocate Bryan Danielson too. Shout out to Tony Khan for doing that. The ending of that show is not what affected it. No, it's not. The crowd midway through this pay-per-view is the reason I gave it a 9.9. When you do an AEW pay-per-view, you should expect matches like this. I'm going to go with the crowd was not ready for this pay-per-view. I'm going with the crowd was not mentally prepared for this pay-per-view. And that is the reason I'm giving it a 9.9, because crowd noise. And you say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with the performers. No, it doesn't. But there were some instances where, like Brody King, for instance, Brody King, when he did that chair shot, the crowd locked back in. Or not chair, but stair shot. When Brody King did the stair shot, the crowd locked right back in. I know I locked right back in. So it's not to say that there were bad performances, because let's face it, there were not. Every single performance on the main card was phenomenal. But if Brody King is the one that's going to get the crowd back, that means somebody else wasn't doing their job. And as much as I loved every single match, when you cut a promo and try to position yourself as a pillar of a promotion, that should have been you that got the crowd back, not Brody. And I love Darby Allin to death. But I think that promo, I think he had to eat a little bit of crow on that promo. None of that was standing. Overall, great thing, great. Everything was beautiful. Top to bottom, card good, everything good. No complaints, no nothing. We are potentially going to be live again on Wednesday. Potentially, I say potentially because it is what it is. I don't know. We are potentially going to be live on Wednesday. And if we are, we're going to be live with our Hump Day show. But otherwise, as you can tell, we've got a couple of emergencies going on around here. So I'm going to go ahead and end this stream right here by saying good afternoon, America, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us at Graps TV and The Sicko Show. I'm your host, the Matty Man, and we will catch you either on Wednesday or the following Saturday. So I'd like for y'all to take care, enjoy football. Let's have a great rest of our day, and let's all thank Bryan Danielson for his service. Thank you. Good afternoon. Take care.